I've been DMing for a couple years now, and I went to YouTube and saw people talking about the martial caster divide. Um, that is a concept that I've never really noticed in my games. I've run like a handful of games, I'd say like 3 to 5 games in my time, so far, and I've never actually noticed the martial caster divide. I have noticed that there's some spells that are very powerful in D&D, and they need to be nerfed. But I honestly, I felt like most of my players, besides a couple that built their characters suboptimally, have felt all pretty strong, and they all feel like, not that this is what you should do, and I always tell my players that I don't like to do PvP in D&D, but if they were to fight each other, I feel like any of them could win. It just depends on who goes first. But in battles, they all carry their own weight. Casters can definitely help a lot in that. Like, I have a caster in one of my games who uses a slow spell a lot of the time, or they use like certain other abilities like haste and all that, and they can buff the party in very powerful ways. But they can also use very powerful abilities like, I mean, classic fireball, blade blast fireball, all those things they can use to their advantage to do well. But they kind of just do that once, and then the combat continues, and that's when the martials shine after that. I've never actually noticed that, and I wondered why I never noticed the martial caster divide, which is why I guess I accidentally fixed it. Some of the ways I accidentally fixed this was making great magic items. I think magic items are really fun, specifically magic weapons, and I honestly like to make my own, but you can just use magic items, of course. But I make my own magic items, magic weapons, and my players have fun with them, and they make them feel powerful. And that kind of has just fixed the divide in itself. These weapons don't have to even do that much more damage, especially in lower levels. Like a simple flame tongue, just an extra 2d6 on all your attacks is good. That's all they need. If we do the math, which I don't want to do, but let's say you're a fighter, level 5, with a flame tongue. That might be too early for it, but I think that's pretty reasonable, to give them something at that point. Let's say you're using like a longsword flame tongue. That's 1d10 plus 2d6 per turn. That's an average of around 13 damage per attack. If you hit, that's 2 attacks per turn. Around 26 per turn. That's not bad. A fireball, the average of fireball is, I should have had this ready. I believe it's around 30 or so. But then the difference is with like a fireball at that level, you use one and that's all you got. But the fighter can just do this over and over again. So I like to give them weapons that are like pretty. Sometimes you just need straight damage, but I like to give them fun weapons to use and damaging weapons. One of my favorite weapons that I've made, I like to make swords. Swords are just fun. They're just really fun to make. There's a character called Nathan in one of my campaigns that I should have posted to this channel. It is a One Piece campaign, so he has a weapon called Hiryu. This is a very powerful sword. They're level 15. He just got the sword, to be fair. But the gimmick of this sword is that whenever you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you can make another attack, as long as they're within 10 feet of the last target. It is a One Piece campaign. This is a supreme grade blade, if you know what that means. Very powerful weapon. Of course, it's endgame. He's using it pretty much only in the last battle, but that's a very powerful weapon. It does 2d10 plus strength on a hit, and that's the effect. And that's all he doesn't even use this one as much. He uses his other stuff more, but really good weapon. It doesn't have to have crazy amount of damage, especially around this level. That's not that insane to have 2d10, because there are like vorpal blades. There's stuff like that's really powerful, of course. But the effect is fun to use. You can use it against many people. It's a +3 weapon. That's just always good in general. You hit more often, and he feels like the most powerful. He's the captain. He feels like one of the most powerful people in the crew. And I feel like that's thanks to multiple things that he has on his sheet, how he builds, but also just the weapon that he has. But he doesn't even have to. Most of these players in this campaign don't even min-max build. They don't even build they just build optimally. That's why I always encourage players to do, just build optimally. So I guess that's my second point. Just build, if you're playing a martial character, and you're a DM for marshals and casters, I would recommend telling your marshals, hey, just build pretty optimally. I guess this is like one of the big problems of being a caster, and of the martial caster divide, is that casters technically don't have to build optimally, is what people say. Kind of true, but not really. If you're a wizard and you dump intelligence, then most of your spells are not going to work. So I think everyone should just build optimally, especially marshals. If you want to have a fun time, build optimally. And as a DM, just give them a relatively good weapon. And then I like to do weapons that like get better as you go on, but whatever works, just give them multiple weapons that they can use depending on what they want to do. I have weapons that are basically flame tongues. I have weapons that do stuff like that. In One Piece, I have sea stone weapons that are just good against double fruit users. Just things like this that helps with you lowering the distance between marshals and casters. The caster in my campaign is a half caster, so it might change things, but they are an artificer and they do have access to an 8th level spell, so it's pretty similar, I would say, still. And honestly, I'd argue artificers are just broken in general. They could just give everyone magic weapons. They can do all that stuff. So that might be why they feel closer in power as well. But yeah, they use 8th level spells, and those are very powerful. But it's one and done. And after that combat, when they use that spell, as a DM, I'm like, okay, hopefully you have another spell for the next combat that's happening before you guys long rest. That's probably my third point. You don't have to have just one fight per long rest. I know there's different campaigns. You want to make sure. I have a campaign where people like to fight, so I do make sure they get to fight as much as I can. I don't make every session fighting, of course. Especially recently, I've had 3 sessions in a row of RP, which is great. But when they fight, I make fun, engaging fights, and you want to make everyone feel like they are useful in the fight. If you're dealing with a lot of really powerful casters, make sure your boss, especially if they are one of your big bosses, we're at the end game where I am right now, so they are the biggest bosses in the campaign. Make sure they have stuff to counter spells, not counter spell, but like just they're good at saves, they're good at stuff like that. They have legendary resistance. At that point, you kind of need that stuff. Make sure they have abilities like that, and every once in a while, give them like spell reflect. You know, give them certain abilities that like can punish casters back. But again, I've said this in another video, just let your players feel powerful and play well, you know? You don't have to punish everything they do, but sometimes having one boss once in a while that has spell reflection or something along those lines, or counterspell. I think I've run 1 or 2 counterspell bosses and that's it, because I don't want to like stop them too often. But whatever villain you have, make sure that it matches their you know, like if they're supposed to be a wizard, then of course they have counterspell. It makes sense. If they have stuff like that, it depends on what they do, but they should have the counters that they should have, and that also balances things. In my campaign for One Piece D&D, the one that I should have uploaded as well as the other one that's on the channel, that one's great too. There are some characters that just straight up ignore spells of lower levels. This is an ability that the Rakshasa uses in normal D&D, which is honestly a great ability, but you don't want to spam it. I only have it on certain Yonko in the world, which are just the 4 emperors. And then literally like the final bosses, the admirals, and the king of the world. That's it. That's like 8 monsters. I call them monsters because it's D&D, but they're people, but they might as well be monsters. That's 8 monsters in the entire story out of like hundreds that they fight, and they have the limited magic immunity ability, and that's it. That kind of makes them, it forces them to play a little bit different. They realize, okay, I can't just use Fireball on this guy. Now, what I like to do is change the level to be 4th level or lower, 3rd level or lower. Depending on where your party is, you don't want to limit them too much with that, but you can give that sort of shield to some characters that you make so that they can't get destroyed that fast from a caster, because it will happen. You will have a character that just gets straight up like hold person, hold monster, they're stuck, they jump them, they're dead. It will happen. So I would say putting these small safeguards on every once in a while, you don't want to spam this, can make them more powerful. And I think the final thing I'll say is just make sure everyone has fun. If your players don't feel the martial caster divide, then you don't have to change much of anything. You're doing fine. As long as they're having fun and they're playing well, I feel like most parties won't feel it. At higher levels, fighters get multiple attacks. Monks, they attack 4 times. They can spam stun, even though that is pretty crazy still. They can all feel powerful in their own way. But if they don't notice that if they don't feel like a lot weaker, then you don't have to change much of anything. But this is what I do on the, I would do this on the down low just in case, if you want. But if you don't have this problem, then don't change anything. There's no reason to. I'd say give them magic weapons though. Those are fun. Don't make them as broken as me. I made mistakes. There's some magic weapons I've made and they're way too powerful, and I wish I didn't make them. And then there's some that kind of suck and they don't help them at all. But yeah, make magic weapons. It should be powerful. Martials are too strong and casters are too weak. We should buff casters. That's about it.